Hello Smack Universe, welcome to a brand new episode. We are sure that you're gonna enjoy this one. So subscribe us wherever you find us, like us and comment whatever you see. Enjoy the show.
Like storytelling and, taking guests on that journey and making sure that it is bespoke and appropriate and conversational.
Hi everyone and welcome to another Smack episode. Today with Kayleigh Wiltshire from the Dorchester Collection, who will share with us why learning and development is a key department in every company and why it is especially relevant to the hospitality industry. But first, let me introduce to you Apaleo, who's sponsoring today's episode. Apaleo is a hotel tech startup from Munich. With their open hospitality platform and app ecosystem, they simplify hotel operations and help hotels to unlock their digital potential. Their dynamic team is rapidly growing and they are looking for exceptional talents like you to join them on their mission. You can check out their open positions on apaleo.com/careers. And now, enjoy the show. So, welcome Kayleigh to the podcast today. How are you feeling?
You. I'm feeling excited. I'm so delighted to be asked to join. So thank you so much.
But this is not the first podcast you're doing, right?
Yes, this is my very first podcast.
Really? Well,
yes.
I'm happy to be part of the premiere. But I saw your fireside chat at YHS, so that's similar to a podcast, I would say.
Yes, yeah, it is similar. But no, it was, that was such a wonderful, again, a great, wonderful opportunity to have a chat with Xavier and kind of understand a little bit about his career, because he's had some fantastic roles and how he's ended up now in Apple. It was, I really enjoyed that conversation. Yeah.
I really did as well when I watched it in preparation for the podcast. So everyone check it out. It's on the YHS website still and on YouTube. So now you're here with me. Thank you for taking the time. Usually I always start with one simple question. Well, for you it's simple, but most of my guests have very complicated job titles that sound very fancy, but normal person can't really picture what that means. So I would invite you to just share with us a bit what the title of Global Learning and Development Manager actually means and what your day-to-day is like, what's the team that you're in, like what does it look like? And just walk us through your life a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, I'll start off with today. Today is a pretty typical day. So we have a team huddle at the beginning of the day, and that kind of consists of the physical office team that we have here in Dorchester Collection corporate office. So we have my manager, Eugenio Puri. He's present and he leads the session with Yasmin Boromond, who is the Director of People and Culture. Then we have the team that support that. So we have a talent acquisition officer. We've got another HR manager. We've got the kind of HR coordinator. We've got a systems specialist working with us, and we've got a receptionist, like a welcome desk for the floor. They also work with us. So we just spend it normally lasts about 45 minutes. It's meant to last half an hour, but we always go over because there's just so much to say. We kind of start off with like fun things, personal things, and then we talk about our day and the things that we've got coming up. And that's really to ensure that everybody knows what's going on, because we've all kind of come from hotels or come from larger places where when you come to HR, like everyone's supposed to know everything. So it doesn't matter if you're speaking to Yasmin or Kayleigh or Marina or Priya, like whoever's coming to us wants the answers or wants to know like someone that can help them really quickly. So that's really important to us as a team to make sure that we're all up to date on what's going on in everyone else's world. So if we have any queries or questions, like we're aware of it, and we can help the team better. So that's how I started my day. And then I had a call with the hotel. So I had a call with Le Maurice. I spoke to a new assistant director of HR there. And part of my responsibility is looking at our team engagement. So I organise the surveys. So as she's new, I was inducting her into our process and the systems that we use to support it. We call it, within Dorchester Collection, we call it Your View. So I was explaining a little bit about that and the philosophies behind it, our goals for the future and how we want to evolve it. So that was, again, getting to know her a little bit, and then how I would liaise with her particularly on the rollout for the hotels. So I had an hour conversation with her. Then I had a meeting with myself and Marina, and we had a Zoom conversation with a university to see how we could better work with them and collaborate with them. So whether that's with seminars or programs and internships and placements. So we had quite an interesting conversation there about how, possible avenues and possible collaborations of how we can work together as a collection, and then the individual hotels as well. So that was really great. Then I had lunch, and
also very important.
Yeah, oh my goodness, yes. I'm a foodie, so food is very important to me. And then I've got some time with you now. So again, that would be quite typical, having conversations with external companies, whether it's on, brand awareness or potential new programs and things that we're looking at as a collection. This afternoon, I mentioned that to you earlier that we've got an executive forum that we're preparing for, where we have all of the executives across all of the hotels coming together for a forum where that we're sharing updates and collaborating within our divisions. So this afternoon, I've got a slide run through because I'm presenting, which is exciting. I didn't realise I was actually presenting until the beginning of this week, so I need to.
Get into it.
Exactly, get myself mentally prepared for that, which will be lovely. It's the first time we've all been together since the pandemic, and it's normally an annual activity that we do. So everyone is really desperate to see each other. I haven't seen colleagues in the hotels now for nearly 3 years, so yeah, I can't wait to see them. So that's this afternoon. Oh, and later on this afternoon as well, one of my team has been on a training course, and part of a follow-up for that is she has to do some activities. So I'll be working with her on that to make sure she just completes that journey with her there. So yeah, that's kind of like my day. So
quite a day.
Yeah, it's an exciting day. I have a team that I work with within the corporate office, and I also have a wider team, should I say, within all of the hotels. So it's not that the hotels report into me. We just have like a dotted line from the hotel the hotel learning and development managers. Exactly. They kind of like report into me. So we have 6 weekly calls where we kind of all come together and share what our focuses are, what our challenges are, and then collaboratively we work to try and help each other, because quite often they're all going through the same things, just in different locations. So it's about ensuring that we have a real support network across all of the 9 hotels, and that we're all working together. And even if they're not going through exactly the same thing now, they might have gone through it the year before or 2 years before, so they can share insights, they can share journeys. So that's kind of like the team.
I can imagine that that information sharing is very important, and also for you to stay in touch with all the different local learning and development managers must be key, like one key aspect of your role, and to also like be one of the person bringing the information from A to B and all of that. So very, very interesting. And just in general, I think learning and development is such an interesting and important position or like department. Although I must ask you, like, how did you get into that field? Because it's very specific. And I researched a little bit online about you and your career so far. And you first started out in health science and nutrition. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah. So I did my degree in nutrition, and I loved it. When I first left university, I worked at a rehabilitation centre for people with eating disorders, and that was a 24-hour, 7 days a week care unit. So I, worked all the different shifts that there were as a support worker for the essentially residents there. They're all at different stages of their journey. So part of my role was to support them in everyday life, and also we with my background being nutrition, we developed a program for them to kind of re-educate them in, the foods that were good and the importance of food and the makeup of food. And that's really where I kind of found that I loved that knowledge transfer and that ability to help people see things in a different light and look at things in a different way. So that's kind of where I first had my glimpse of, oh my goodness, I love being able to share information with others and explore different concepts and different theories with others to help them improve their life. Especially, when in the location that I was in with eating disorders, it really was, I don't want to sound morbid, but like very important to the survival that they kind of started to have a mindset shift on their relationship with food. So I loved that.
And the impact you see, like the impact that you have, you really see it and feel it every day. So of course it's a very enriching experience, I can imagine, although also very, no doubt, tough. As well.
It is tough. Yeah, there were elements of that role that were really taxing and really emotionally draining as well. But it was, like you said, so rewarding, so valuable. But I found that even in right at the beginning of my career within hospitality, that reward that you get from helping people apply things within their roles to help them perform better, to help them connect better with others, like it's wonderful. It's a great opportunity to be part of someone's development and part of someone's progression. It's really, really rewarding. That's why I love L&D.
And how did that shift really work for you? So how did you end up in our wonderful world of hospitality?
I know. Well, so I applied for a maternity role as an L&D officer for Coworth Park. I had just finished a national role. I was a national trainer for a company that doesn't actually exist now. It's called GNC, which is part of a sister company that Holland and Barrett are also part of. It's a UK company that sell like fruits and nuts. But at the time, GNC was a sports nutrition brand, and I used to train their teams, their sales teams in sports nutrition to help them sell better. And I didn't like that role because it was national and it meant that I was traveling every single week and I was staying away from home in, travel lodges and not actually practicing what I loved, which was cooking food, eating nutritional food. I was eating in pubs and getting takeaways and it was not the type of lifestyle that I enjoyed. So I left that. I didn't actually have a job to go to, and I applied for a maternity cover role, and I fell in love with the people in hospitality. Everyone is so kind, so generous, and like genuinely there to contribute in a positive way to other people's experiences. I just, not that I've experienced many different sectors. Obviously, the health sector is like that, but it's a little.
But
bit
it's
more.
hard to find.
It is hard to find, and it was everyone was just really positive, really engaged, and I loved it. And I loved being part of. Part of my responsibility as a learning and development officer was inducting people into the hotel and into the company. And I loved meeting everyone on their first day and like helping them get settled in, and then, catching up with them 30 days in, 60 days in, 90 days in on the different courses that I would hold for them, and just like hearing how they're getting on. It's, it's lovely. I'm a true extrovert in that I get energy from being with people and talking to people.
I completely understand you.
So I just relished it. It was wonderful having conversations with loads of people and being able to walk around a hotel and know pretty much everyone, and have a connection with them and have something to talk about with them.
And again, you see your impact daily because you're helping these people settle in and finding their way in a completely new environment and starting a new job. I just started a new job 2 months ago. It's always stressful. It's always, you're a bit, not uncomfortable, but you're trying to figure out how everyone else works with each other and who functions in what way. So it's really important to have that like one person that you can just rely on and also go to. And I think the significance of your role back then, it's really you cannot like emphasize enough
Yeah.
how important these key people are in a hotel or in any kind of company. So I completely understand how much energy that also must have gave you.
Yeah, it was great. And
yeah.
because I was able to have that touch points at certain, points within their journey with us, their career with us, their time, that I did, like you said, like I was the person that people would come to, and I'd be the first person to be that link to, whether it was whether they needed more information about benefits, or whether they needed information about this or that. Or within Coworth Park, actually, it's quite unique in that some of the team live on site. So whether they needed help with their housing, or it's a really accessible, learning and development is a really accessible way into HR, because you see them all the time, and I'm there in the departments delivering training and then checking in on them, making sure that they're okay holistically as well.
And in your experience, learning and development in itself, I think, is key to an HR department, but so often it's not structured in a way that to an outsider or even within the team, it's clear that this is one of the pillars of the entire team, and resources and time and everything has to be invested into only some learning and development activities and the system even behind that. Have you seen this as well, or have you heard, at least because you've been with Dorchester for a very long time now, but I feel like within our industry it's not normal, let's say, to have such a big focus on learning and development, although it should be, I think, like that.
Yeah, I think maybe because of the networks that I was a part of was always L&D, so we always did have that focus. So I haven't actually had too many conversations of people within hospitality to kind of to go along with that chain of thought and that trend that L&D is not vital. I did actually randomly have a conversation with someone from a bank at a wedding, and when I was explaining my job, he was really shocked. He was like, "Oh, wow, like I work here," and I'm not going to name the bank because I don't think it's very fair. And there isn't that type of support, and there isn't that L&D focus. So I'm not sure about within the hospitality industry, but from like anecdotal conversations with others. Yeah.
No, I think it's not only our industry. I think it's in general. Just of course, there's good companies and there's bad companies, and there's just certain HR activities that are just you just have to have them, otherwise your company's going to fall apart.
Yeah, that's true. Like payroll.
Exactly, and learning and development is not on it's not everyone's first thought, I think.
Yeah.
Even though for the long-lasting, sustainable, to have a sustainable company, it's definitely one of the more important.
I mean, I've come across individuals that think like that, definitely, but not as an actual like company. I've come across leaders that just don't send their team, or they pull their team off last minute, and they're not placing the importance on that opportunity. Definitely had the individuals like that, but not necessarily companies as a whole. I haven't experienced that as yet.
Have you seen a change though over the years? So since you've been with Dorchester, first on property level and now on a global level, have you seen kind of throughout the company that there is a change of how L&D is seen, and also the importance of it? So for example, like a team leader or like more team leaders that now are aware of or like push this even more within their respective teams, that is important, that nurture this way of thinking and also give that on to their respective team members?
I think there probably has been a change, and when we're talking about how everyone has changed, their mindsets have changed dramatically over the past 2 years, about what they're, what's a priority and what's important. I do think that, the generational impact as well, of the new generations coming into the workforce, and, that drive to know more and have more knowledge and develop faster and have career progression. I think, that does definitely allow for the conversation to say, okay, well, if you want to get here, where are the skills gaps, and how can we get you from A to B? And I think those conversations are more increasingly happening within all of our hotels.
So all the Generation Y people coming into the workforce is actually helping L&D even more.
I think so. I think because people are interested, like people are more curious and they understand, like maybe, with the fact that access to information is so much more freer than it was 10, 15 years ago, that people just know that this stuff is around and know that it should be around and are kind of asking for it. Yeah.
Definitely. And like you said before as well, the topic of how do I advance my career? How do I get from here to where I want to be? Like I think the Generation Y, I'm like on the verge of Y and Z. So
okay.
I do see myself more as a Y person though, because one of the things that are also said about our generation is that they're very ambitious, very driven, and sometimes want even more. They want to bite off more than they can chew. But what comes with it is that, of course, in a new company, the first thing you see is like, okay, where can I get even more information, more skills, like you were saying, and of course that leads them directly to you.
It does, yeah, it does, and I suppose, yeah, it's. I'm just trying to work out. It's not necessarily what generation you belong to. I think everyone is really curious, and everyone, when you first start a company, and even when we're the communication channels within Dorchester Collection are really wide and transparent, so there's stuff happening all the time, and people want to know about it, and people want to be part of that conversation. And I'm kind of coming to L&D and coming to HR and speaking to their leaders about it is one of the first few things that they do. So yeah, whether it is internal progression or new projects or new things.
And over the last year or so that you've been first on property level and now global, have there been some big key topics that were with you for a couple of months or years that were really big things that you as a company needed to adopt, or that you kind of adopted into your system? Just can you maybe share?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've gone through a fantastic change within Dorchester Collection around, where we're placing priority of things, and really thinking about our guests and really thinking about how we're meeting those needs of our guests and why they come to us as a brand. And with that, and with the mindset shift of what's important and what activities and behaviors are going to lead us to more success, some of the things that I've been spending time on is around empowerment and change management and coaching and leadership competencies for our leaders, and more for the team members. It's around storytelling and taking guests on that journey and making sure that it is bespoke and appropriate and conversational. So yeah, there's some key things definitely with mindset shift, and I mentioned empowerment, but that's huge and that covers so many different things, and
especially in a high quality property. Where everything used to be very standardized and used to be very much like you have to work within those boundaries, and if you don't, then that's not a place where you can work. And I think the trend is very much going away from that, and you have to sometimes reteach people what it means to have the liberty to also bring their personal touch to things.
Absolutely, and that's key. Absolutely key. To be able to make those autonomous decisions and know that you have the support of your team, the support of your leader, and the support of the culture to say okay, no, at this moment, this is the right thing to do for this guest, and I'm going to do it. And having that bravery and encouragement to do it is key, and that's sometimes a different skill set for leaders to be able to let people do that.
especially if they have seen something different back in the days when they were starting out. I remember a couple of years ago, my first internship, when I was at hotel school, I did it at a very luxurious hotel in Zurich called the Dolder Grand, and it's a standalone property, not part of any bigger collection or anything. And they just did a complete rebranding, and basically the new motto or vision was that we were going to be very approachable, and every team member had the power to do a lot of things in their own way, and that was for a lot of people very hard because they have worked there before this change, or sometimes in other 5-star properties where this was especially not asked of them to do. And for me, it was very easy because I was coming in, I was like, oh, this is great. I can chat to a guest and give them my own tips, and I don't have to give them the tips of the hotel because maybe I know something more or different that I think the guest would like. So for me, it was great, but I could see how some of my colleagues were really struggling. And I completely understand it now, looking back, that you have to retrain those habits. So I can.
That must have been lovely to work in.
Yes, it was
straight in an internship as well. Like the freedom to be able to, truly engage and create meaningful relationships with the guests that you have in front of you, and be able to kind of go off script, and I'm kind of doing it in quotation marks. That must have been great.
Yeah, I was very lucky with all my internships, I must say, compared to some of my students back at school, especially the first internship where you have to work operationally in a kitchen or in room service. That's usually quite tough. And I was lucky to have, like, it all comes down to the culture in the end. As probably you also must give so many trainings on culture and like that's in the end key. If someone is a cultural fit, as such a key term that everyone throws around, but it's really true. If your values align with the one, like with the company you work for, it's hardly an effort that you have to make to enjoy your work. But that's the other thing. How do you, during the recruitment process, how do you tackle that, right? How do you ensure that you're getting the people that you need?
No, that's so true. And I think there's no one question that you have that's able to define that. So within Dorchester Collection we have values-based questions. So all of the questions that we ask standardized questions to ensure consistency and fairness across the recruitment the phases and the recruitment process. So we ask questions that are aligned to our values, and they're very much like, tell me about a time where you had to do so and so, which are kind of like behavioral examples. And from that, we're able to work out, okay, so are those behaviors things that align with behaviors that we see within our hotels already. We also have a values insight recruitment tool that we use, which is a situational judgment test, which is one of the first phases of the recruitment process for us, and it's a non-biased element where someone is given a set of 14 questions, and they need to say, okay, what's the best action from this particular scenario, and do I think it's effective, or do I not think it's effective? And then from that, we're able to kind of assimilate whether they're a fit, whether their behaviors and how they would cope in certain situations would match what we would want to see from them.
Yeah, it's key, like I was saying before. Is this something that you've been doing for a long time, or is this a recent has the recruitment process changed a lot since you have been with the collection? Or
yes, since I've been with the collection, yes. So this is something that's something we've been doing for about 5 years. But however, we've always actually had values-based questions right from when I was first employed. So kind of like checking for the behaviors and what we would see from them, from the stories they have given, the examples that are given in the past. That's been the same. But yeah, the VERT is 5 years old. What about you? Like, when you've said you joined a new company 2 months ago, so how was your recruitment process as part of that?
So we actually find that you should ask. We also, you have to do a test, one that is very much like you just explained. So not at all. So everyone has to do the same test. So not at all whatever department you're applying to. It's really just more to find out, is there a value fit? Is there, like, what kind of character traits do you show? And the funny thing is, you get the results, like you can look into them. It's saved in your basically like profile in the HR system. And I just read through it like 2 weeks ago, and it was so interesting. And I'm so happy that they provide you with that, because they wouldn't have to, right? They can just also keep it. And I thought it was great, because it didn't take long, but it's just, for the company, I think, very important. Of course, also for the person applying, because it's always like you find out more about yourself. But I think for the company, it's really an important step. And my now boss also said that she was so happy when they introduced this, because it really, like, she looks at that more than she would, for example, at the CV or like the grade report or like anything. Because in the end, for her, like, her experience has also shown that that's the best indicator, more or less, if the person fits into the team and also in the wider company. And the company that I work for is called Ruby Hotels. It's very active in the, started in Germany, but now just Central Europe, and also London. There's one, and there's two coming. So
brilliant! That's exciting.
And people actually stay with the company for a very long time. So especially in hospitality, as you know, turnover is quite high. And she said that it's because they also invested very early on in certain recruitment tools and just a very, very big emphasis on HR, because it's been a tough topic in our industry since probably mankind. That's just long working hours, not the best pay that you could imagine. And you really need to find the people that match with the values of the company, but also in general with the industry, right? So like you were saying before, if you're someone who enjoys creating an experience for someone and making someone feel great while they are staying at your hotel, and you do your thing that contributes to that person's happiness, then you will always stay within the industry. Of course, there might be a change of your employer might change, but you can't really leave. Like, I tried to leave, but it just, well, I didn't try. I had to because of COVID, but it's just not the same. Like we were saying at the beginning of the podcast, it's the mindset of people is different. What they bring to the workplace, like how they see, like, how much time they want to invest with their colleagues. I could also tell that that's a bit different. But of course, like my examples are only the ones that I have experienced. But I've heard this from many people, and also my dad, who left the industry for a bit after like 25 years within hotels. He also said, like, he had to get used to that change, that people just were not thinking like him anymore, and he had to adapt. And that was very hard for him to do at 50 years old, you know. So and he said that it's never quite the same, how much heart that most of us bring into the daily job.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to do it. Yeah, like you said, there are unfortunately, there are some things with hospitality that aren't for everyone, like you said, like the long hours and the late nights. But if you love being with people, and you love being able to help people with their life events, then it makes you sparkle, doesn't it?
Definitely. And so looking into the future a little bit, I'm sure that the past 2 years, I don't want to talk about COVID too much, but I'm sure in terms of learning and development, the past 2 years have also stirred up everything a little bit. So what have there been some things that you are now, like, you learned, or you found that you had to change them because, of course, the whole world changed, and now you're keeping it? Or how are you going into the hopefully now back to normal times? What are some of the focus points that you and your team are setting?
We are definitely, so up until COVID, we were very much around face-to-face time, whether that was in a workshop environment, off the floor or on the floor, in smaller groups, doing practical sessions. It's, we've definitely as a company embraced the blended delivery style of knowledge, and how important it is to maybe be introduced to a topic, have time to go away and research it, watch a few videos, do a few activities, and then come back as a group or as a small peer-to-peer coaching group and have that conversation to say, okay, this is what I've just heard from, and this is what I've learned from this particular topic. How am I going to apply that in my day-to-day roles? And, who is going to help me in this? And how am I going to make sure that these things that I'm hearing and these, new ideas are going to be adopted moving forward? So it's more of that kind of like, not necessarily a full day session. They've definitely moved away from that, but it's more like, here's 20 minutes, half an hour of understanding and like learning a theory. Go away, think about it, come together as a group informally, have a discussion, hold each other accountable, go away again, come back, report on what your findings, what tweaks you need to do. So it's a longer journey, and kind of more self-facilitated as well. That's some of the things that we're going to be kind of looking at as a collection around, how can we incorporate the practice and play time with theories, and and the flexibility of doing things as well. That's really, really key.
Something that everyone demands now, right?
Yeah.
In all aspects of our lives in the end. So it's not surprising to me that that's also affecting your department as much as everyone else's. But another thing that I wanted to ask you is that, so I'm a big fan of mentoring. I've had maybe, I don't know, it's always hard to say, like, when does someone actually become a mentor and when is it just a very close confidant you have? But I would say I had like 2 to 3 mentors so far, and I hope I can become one myself one day. But need a bit more experience, or like collect a bit more experience until that point. But that's personally for me like a one-to-one version of learning and development in the end, like packed into basically a person. And I think it's very interesting that some companies, right? I don't know if you have anything like that in terms of like a mentoring system, but many companies are trying to start that within them, like the company itself, and really try to facilitate that through different ways. Is it something that you are doing at the collection, or that you have been looking into it, or what's your personal take on mentoring?
Yeah, I mean, mentoring coaching is a fantastic way of developing yourself through different means. And I think, we have a Ultimate Leaders program, and part of the Ultimate Leaders program is having a mentor and a buddy. So a mentor is typically someone that's higher up than you in the organization, that can share their story and organizational insights. And a buddy would be more kind of like someone, a confidant that you could go to and be like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with.
Important.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of like two strains of mentoring there, but quite different. So we have that as part of a structured program with our ULPs. We did in the Dorchester probably about 6 years ago. We did launch like a mentoring program, and we did have some people like sign up that wanted to kind of be mentored, and we had so we had mentees and mentors. And I think you've put it quite well in the fact that sometimes when you have a structured program, it doesn't necessarily spark that chemistry that you need. So chemistry sessions are really important when you're building those relationships and having that rapport with someone. That's really important. So I think we do it does have a place in some structured programs that we have, but as within the hotels, they kind of look at it differently. Coaching, on the other hand, that has absolutely, I think it's exploded everywhere. Everyone's doing coaching, and everyone, we're kind of looking at leadership and coaching, and how they, how can you be a manager coach, and the different elements that you can pull into your leadership style and have more of a coaching approach to your style. That is completely kind of in the culture that we have within Dorchester Collection.
Yeah, I think what you said, it's also been kind of my experience with, like, I once applied to one of these like mentoring programs, and then there wasn't any like chemistry session or anything. You were just paired basically based on your interests, and sometimes that just doesn't work, right?
No.
And that's just also what I hear from some friends, is that when you have, like, when that's your first experience with it, then you tend to just say, oh yeah, I think mentoring is not for me, or like it needs to come natural to a certain extent. But at the same time, I do think that certain boundaries, or just the being aware of what it is, and kind of starting that conversation within a company just benefits the whole, like, it coming around quite naturally, and maybe just by people approaching each other, like, hey, would you be interested in kind of mentoring me, like very casually, because people always think, oh, this is so much like time that I need to invest, but it can be really just very much casual starting off, and that's sometimes the mentoring relationships that last the longest.
Yes,
because once
definitely.
the program is over, then sometimes these friendships or relationships also kind of die out. And that's just not the idea behind it. But when it comes to coaching, like you were saying, I think that's like where more people can relate to in a way as well, because the boundaries are just clear, and everyone just knows, okay, like, this is the coach, he comes in, and this is what he's gonna or she's gonna give to me, and what I'm expected to give back. So I think it's a bit more structured in that sense, but definitely also key. And even more now, I think the last 2 years also, like you were saying before, brought around the change where people also thought, okay, maybe I also should invite someone else to help us or my team, or knowledge, how important knowledge transfer is, because when we deal with crisis, then you're always more open to ask for help. So in that way, I think it's also good, because people are more open to these ideas. I guess that some of your inputs that your team was proposing to certain individuals or teams was also met by more open minds, maybe. Now after these 2 years, or what was your experience?
Yeah, no, I think that I think if you have a culture where it is really common for people to talk to others, across levels and across divisions, I think the natural, just going back to what you're saying about mentoring and how that natural organic relationship can really spark and flourish. And I think, we do, with the different activities that we all do in the different hotels, it's really encouraged to not network in like a really formal, stressed scenario, but to spend time with other people from different departments. And almost when you come into the training room, or like the training workshops, it's another opportunity to network and to find out about more people, and to be able to sit down next to someone in the canteen and say, oh, hey, we did this together, and how are you finding that? And I think the visibility of different levels in one place, formally or informally, is really important to kind of allow for that natural,
get that going.
Definitely. Yes, that natural kind of conversations to flow. And with regards to, you saying, people when they're in crisis, they're more willing to offer to help. I think it can go two ways. I think it depends on the personality.
That's true, of course.
And how you cope with, and how it's impacting you personally and professionally. Again, from being in hospitality and working with such wonderful people, I've not really experienced anyone that's pushed back, when we've come in and been like, hey, what are your problems? How can I help you with them? Or this is what I'm seeing, or this is what we're getting feedback on. Let's see what we can do about it together, which is really kind of great. There isn't that kind of barrier or that
which is best case scenario, right?
Yeah. Or even that kind of, I was just about to say like that blame culture where, oh, well, it's this and that. It's not about that. It's this is the situation.
Yeah, it does exist, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I think,
true.
and I'm happy to hear that you haven't really faced that. But I think it's really, again, like a mindset culture thing, right? If you're open to feedback or not, that's just that defines a lot of these conversations, right? So if you live in an open feedback culture and really live and breathe that, then of course makes your job a lot easier.
It does, absolutely. And it makes progression a lot easier. It makes those conversations so much easier. And it makes, the development of others just so much easier. Within Dorchester Collection, we have a fantastic philosophy around feedback. And it's, we use CCL, the Centre of Creative Leadership. They provided us with a structure, which is SBI, which is brilliant. It just takes all the emotion out of feedback, and it's just situation, behavior, impact. And, when you present feedback in that format and that framework, it's not about, feelings or the emotion or what you infer from that behavior. It's just the facts. And then the impact is more about like, okay, so this is how it impacted me, the organization, the guest, what I observed from others. And that's a really nice way of positioning it, because then people don't get defensive, because it's like, this is what I saw, and this is, and this is the impact because of that. So let's see what we can do moving forward, and what other ways can we, if the situation happened again, or, if those behaviors come up again, like what can we do?
But I'm so happy you just shared that like framework, because in the end, so many people or companies or just groups, it's just a little thing that's missing, and these frameworks or systems can really help, like you were saying, to structure and to navigate these hard conversations, because that's usually what it is, right? Giving feedback is a hard conversation no one really wants to have. And then if you have a framework that works, I'm sure there's also really bad ones out there. But that's why it's good that you as an expert are giving our listeners a good tip that has been I know. Tested.
Well, it's not mine, so I can't take any credit for it.
No, of course. But it's your job to share the information which you are doing.
Yeah, it is. Part of what I have is around hearing these theories and hearing these kind of ideas and giving them to people in a way where they can go, oh, actually, that's really useful. I'm going to use that. And it's great. And just like you said, like people do shy away from those difficult conversations, those confrontational situations. And quite a lot of the time, if you sit down and do a little bit of preparation and think about, okay, what do I actually want to say? What's the main aim? They're not as bad as they appear. We can tend to whirlwind things in our minds, and by actually taking a little bit of time and having a framework to apply it to will really, really help.
Well, I think we're already at the end of our podcast, unfortunately, but time really flew by. I hope you felt the same. I hope you had a nice first podcast experience, and now that's the only thing you want to do. You're going to quit your job and just be a podcast guest.
I mean, how lovely.
But yeah, no, thank you so much, and for giving us this little insight into the L&D world. And if you're ever in Austria, in Vienna, or in Germany, like we established before the recording, you really have to check out some other German cities than Bonn. So ever in the area, I would love to show you around, and thank you so much for the time.
Oh, absolutely. And if you ever come to London to help with those hotel openings, you let me know.
I most likely will.
Good.
I will definitely let you know. Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. When are they opening then?
So it's still a bit, but one is at Notting Hill Gate, and that's going to be, I think, beginning of next year. And yeah, so I'll be over there probably, hopefully very soon, and I will definitely give you a ring.
That would be fantastic. That would be lovely to see you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and have a lovely day.
Thank you, and you. Safe travels, and I'll speak to you soon.
That's it for this episode, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to share your thoughts on this episode and everything else that is going on at Smack with us by checking out our website at smack.media, or connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Instagram. We'll see you next time.
Guys, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We're so glad that you were here, and we hope that you give us a lot of love, a lot of comments, and everything that you have on your minds. Follow us wherever you find us, and stay tuned for the next one. See you.